faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Good evening and welcome to the Phoenix Podcast Show with truly yours, Ken Sharpe. Tonight on the show, I'm so pleased to have a friend, a new colleague in the music industry, someone who's got multiple talents, and we can't wait to hear from you, Clive, Mukundu. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Mono is a music producer, composer, multi-instrumentalist, largely known as a guitarist. He's also an author, and most impressively, you've featured on more than 1,000 albums. Can you imagine that? 200 singles from 1988 to date.
Yeah, that's very true.
So tell us about your story. Where did it start?
Okay, musically, I always had a dream to become a musician since I was a kid. Because I remember around age 9, I was already playing a homemade tin guitar. There's some homemade guitars that we used to make that time. You take a tin, and then you put a plank.
It's like an oil tin.
Yeah, an oil tin. Yeah, and then you put a plank, and
Yeah.
then you put some fishing lines. Your fishing lines would be your strings. So that's what we used to play. And the reason being that our parents were very much against us getting into the music industry. So your parents couldn't buy you an instrument.
So you were banned.
Yeah.
This was underground work.
Yeah, it was underground work because every time you were seen playing, you were given corporal punishment. Especially my father.
A beating?
Yeah, he will give you a beating. He never wanted to see me anywhere near music.
Can you imagine that?
So I had to play my own homemade tin guitar. And it was only until 1988, I think it was on the 22nd of January 1988. That's when I was taught how to play a proper guitar. So that's when I started, and that same year is the year that I formed my first band. And then,
So just slow down a minute. You're saying that you started playing a musical instrument without any lessons, without any coaching, just figuring it out on your own?
Yeah, well, I was figuring out on my own. That's when I was playing that homemade tin guitar. But when I was 17, I was now too old to play a tin guitar because I wanted to impress the girls.
That's a good reason, good motivation.
Yeah, you can't impress the girls with a homemade tin guitar. So I had to learn a proper guitar. So that's when I had someone teach me my very first chords on a proper guitar.
At 17?
Yeah.
But you started playing from 9?
Yeah, from 9, but I was playing a homemade one.
So tell us a little bit about family life. We'll come back to the music. How was it? You born in Sharpe?
Yeah, I was born in Sharpe, Tuesday, the 15th of September, 1970.
You got a good memory.
It's because I write things down.
You do. Music being one of them.
Yeah, so it looks like I've got a very good memory, but it's just because I write things down. But I think I do have a good memory.
So take us back to that 1970.
So I was born in Sharpe in 1970, but immediately after I was born, I was transferred to Harare. So I grew up in Harare.
In one of the high densities?
Yeah, high density suburbs.
That's a township for those who don't know that. Which one?
Mfakose, Kambuzuma, and Kwadzana. So I was just going around those three because we were tenants. We didn't own a house, so
right. Renting.
So we kept moving around.
And you had a big family, I believe, 8?
Yeah, we are 8 in our family. Yeah, and I'm the second one.
Second oldest. So how was life being in the 70s, growing up in the 70s in a high-density township?
Yeah, things were a bit different from now. It was in the 70s, that was during the Liberation War. So I remember I used to go to the rural areas to see my grandmother. And some would, you hear guns blazing, you would see soldiers from both sides, and it was scary, but we used to go there still. And back in town, everything was a bit normal because there was no fighting in town. And so everything was normal in town, but every time you went to the rural areas, you'd experience the war situation.
So tell us the name Mono, where does it come from?
Yeah, that one is tricky. You know what happens with nicknames is your nicknames usually they become popular more than your name. Was in around 1988, I used to have a single dreadlock. You know what?
So can you show us where it was in your head?
Yeah, it was somewhere there.
In the middle?
And it was long enough to reach somewhere
So
there.
the rest was bald?
No, it was not bald because it was not allowed in school.
Oh, okay.
So I had to keep an afro.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll hide it in my afro.
Okay.
Then I go to school.
The dreadlock wasn't allowed.
Soon after school, I take it out. So I used to call it a monologue.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was working in a band. I was playing with a band called Chuck's Brothers. And there was a guy by the name of Admire Kasenga. He went on to become popular later on. So he's the one who first called me Mono in 1989. So as soon as he called me Mono, the name just blossomed and everybody started calling me Mono.
So we're going to come back to the mono because I know it's monolized now. But tell us, going back to your father, you know, I often say on these programs, there's a famous author. I don't know if you've heard of the father of innovation, a guy called Clayton Christensen.
Yeah, I've heard the name before.
He wrote a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. It's a very good book. I would recommend reading it. He's a professor of Harvard Business School. And in his latter years, he wrote a book called How You Measure Your Life.
How you measure life?
How you measure your life.
Okay.
Yeah. And he got cancer. He was suffering with cancer, terminal. They said he only had a few months.
Is it the one who wrote books and recovered after writing?
He did recover, yes. And he lived for 15 years.
I know the book, yeah.
Yes. And in that book, he talks about bringing up our children. And he says, and I often relate to this in my own life because I started life with nothing. My father gave me a one-way ticket and £100. And I often say that was the thing that made me into who I am. And now that I have much, I try to give more to my children. And the same for many Zimbabweans, first or second generation Zimbabweans in the independent Zimbabwe. They came from nothing. So they give everything they can to their children. Of course, first education, a home, a start. But I often ask myself the question, and this was his philosophy of teaching, and I'm going to ask this question to you. He said, it's not what you do for your children that makes them, but it's what you don't do for them. So in your case, how do you relate to that and the way your father punished you, the way you grew up?
I think it had advantages and disadvantages, both. Because when it comes to the advantages, it made me stronger and very resilient. Because I remember we used to walk very long distances from Kwadzana. There's some about, 5 to 10 kilometers from town. But we used to walk on foot to come to town or to go to Southerton. There was only one studio in Zimbabwe. So for you to record, you had to go and do auditions in that studio. So we failed more than 10 auditions with my first band, and every time we went back on foot, and sometimes we'd be hungry, no food, because we had no money, no sponsorship. So it made me stronger. But on the flip side, I also think if he had supported me, he would have given me information that would stop me from making a lot of the mistakes that I made. Because I look at my son. My son is now, he was born 1998, so how old is he now? 20 what? I mean, around 25, 26 there. So I'm the one who taught him how to play. And when he became professional, I gave him all the tips and advice. And he's doing far much better than I did. So I think it works both ways. Mm-hmm. There are some advantages and there are some disadvantages.
But in your journey, if your father had not resisted and not tried to stop you playing music, would your passion have been the same? Would your determination be what it was?
Yeah, I think that one is a psychological question. And I think you are correct in that. I think that his denial made me want to do it more.
More, right?
They call it the power of the forbidden. Because if something is forbidden, you want to do it more.
I like that, the power of the forbidden.
Yeah,
that's good. So that made you have a drive, a determination.
Yeah, it was strong.
You just didn't want to give up.
I never wanted to give up.
You wanted to prove yourself to be successful.
And I also wanted to prove to him that you can be a musician and be a normal person. Because the reason why he was stopping me from going into music is because he had seen bad examples of musicians. Because musicians were known to be vagabonds. They would go around impregnating the girls. They'll be drinking, fix their board and everything. So I wanted to prove to him that you can be a musician and be married with one woman and have a stable family. And I managed to do that.
So only one wife, one family?
Yeah. Or maybe I'm good at hiding it.
Is your father alive?
He's late, but he called me in October 2001, and he told me that you have proved yourself. So you now have
He
my
acknowledged
blessings.
it. Oh, wow.
That's what he told me.
That's
he said,
amazing.
you now have my blessings.
Amazing.
And I believe in parental blessings. Because soon after he said that, those started opening. That's when I started playing for big bands like Oliver Mtukudzi, Choniso Harare, started traveling around the world after he gave me that blessing. So my mission was to prove to him that you can be a musician and be a straightforward person, one wife, one family, looking after your family, being responsible, and I managed to do that.
So you broke the ceiling.
Yeah.
And tell me about your culture, family life. How do you maintain your Shona culture, both as a family then and now in your new family with your child, with your children, with their children? I don't know if your son yet has children. Have you got grandchildren?
I can't wait until they.
It's going to happen
until
sooner.
I have grandchildren. Yeah. Both me and my wife, we both grew up in Christian families. So usually in Zimbabwe, the way Christianity was introduced was in a way that sort of looked down upon elements of our culture. So we were not much involved in a lot of our cultural activities. But of course, there are some parts of your culture that you cannot avoid, which you cannot resist. So I think we had a fusion or a mixture of both our Christian element and the African traditional element. So my wife, my kids, they are still strong Christian. They still go to church, except me.
You don't? They haven't converted you?
I deconverted in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, after 20 years.
That's a long time.
After 21 years.
Well, we need to talk a little bit about that. But what is your totem?
It's Soko.
Soko.
Yeah.
And
So,
Kumusha?
Kumusha is Rusape.
And you go back to family there?
Yeah, once in a
Visit
while,
them?
because I still have my uncles there, and my aunts there, and my grandmother. So once in a while, I go there.
So we're about to come to the end of this first session. If you were to share one thing with me that's in your heart about the Zimbabwean culture, Zimbabwean tradition, how music fits into that, what would it be?
Our Zimbabwean culture is very peaceful, because I've traveled over 25 countries around the world, and I've noticed that it's easy to demonize your country if you don't travel. But if you travel, then you start comparing with other cultures, you notice that we have a very peaceful country, no gun crime as much as you see in South Africa and America. So even our music reflects that. Yeah, we are a very peaceful country. So our music also speaks along those lines.
So would you classify the Zimbabwean Shona genre music as more peaceful, as more pacifying, loving? How would you fit that into a description?
Yeah, we've got different genres that have got different lyrics and different messages, but overall, it's about love. Because, of course, we've got our gospel musicians that preach their Christianity. We've got a few that preach African traditional religion. Then we have the neutral genres. But overall, we're a peaceful country and very happy people. We've got our problems, of course, but we are very resilient. And it's reflected in our music.
Hold on to that thought, being resilient, love and peace in a beautiful country.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mono. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
So, Mono, you mentioned Zimbabweans are resilient and we're peaceful and loving people.
Yeah.
But yet, in the world, you hear so many people talking badly about Zimbabwe, about our country. And I'm glad you brought up the issue of being a representative of your country, that we need to be proud of who we are as a nation. We can be from different backgrounds. We can even have different colors of skin, different religious beliefs. We can be different tribes, but at the end of the day, we're one nation.
That's
The
very
nation
true.
of Zimbabwe.
That's very true. I've noticed that around the world, I don't know how this rumor was spread that our country is so much in turmoil, there's fighting everywhere. The other time I was in Sweden and I met some people who were saying, we're afraid to come to Zimbabwe. We've heard that you hate white people. You chop off their heads and you put their heads on the stick and you move in the streets singing. And I was wondering, where do you get that information? Because in Zimbabwe, if you fire a gun in the air, it's on the news. On the following day, it will be on the news. There was a gun that was fired in the air. But in other countries, there's gunfights every day. They don't even report it in the news. So Zimbabwe is a very peaceful country.
So where do you think this comes from, this negative element of, I don't know if I can call it sensationalism or bad publicity, but why is it like this? Why do we have so much negative talk and bad news?
Some of it is from ignorance. Because before I went to the United States, somebody used to tell me that people in America think we still live in trees, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke, and when I got there, I was asked a number of times questions like, aren't you afraid of meeting lions in the streets when you go to the shops? And when the kids go to the school, don't they meet leopards in the street? I don't know where their ignorance comes from, because they've got a very negative image of Africa. So even when they saw us, I remember we went for a TV interview when I was with Oliver Mtukudzi. And they were saying, how come your skin is so smooth? How come everything is normal? They thought that we were dressed at the airport. They thought maybe we came in some animal skins. And so some of it is out of ignorance. And then some of it comes from people who don't like our country, maybe.
This issue of being a good ambassador is important, right? And you're an influencer, you're a respected person, you have far reach in your sphere of influence. You have a responsibility, as does many people, to represent the country positively. And you mentioned Americans, I often talk about them because you never hear of an American going outside of America and bad-mouthing his country.
And those people lie. Have you ever seen their movies? They're always winning all the wars. Even in Vietnam, they were beaten, but every movie about Vietnam, they are the ones winning. So they've got a very positive image about themselves, and they think they're superior to everybody. Because every time you see, even the way their body language just expresses confidence.
Confidence, right?
Yeah. And I also think it comes from even their entertainment. Because if you look at their cartoons, they've got cartoons like Captain America. You'll be beating up everybody in the world, even aliens who have never come to the world. They will be beating everybody. So from a very young age, they are taught that you are superior. So I think in every country's education and in every country's entertainment, they have to include that element of patriotism.
And national pride.
Yeah, you need that.
So I've been to a few sporting events in America, and you find during the breaks, they'll call a military person.
And they honor him.
And honor him. Bring his family on stage, give him something. Everyone applauds him. Those kind of things are important.
Those things are very important because I think as Zimbabweans, we need to learn such things and also need to separate between national things and political. Because sometimes any national event, people label it as political. Things like your Independence Day, you can't even celebrate your Independence Day. People start labeling, giving you political labels. I think we need to grow some maturity and learn patriotism, because we really need to learn patriotism. And one country to learn from is America. Because in America, you find a flag and you think maybe it's a government building when it's just somebody's home. They've got an American flag there. Yeah, in the office, everybody's very proud to be American. And even the way they talk about their history, there's a lot of sugarcoating.
They're good at talking, right? Good at promoting.
They're very good at talking. They're very good at storytelling. So everything about themselves, they just feel good about themselves. Even their media, their radio stations and everything, they don't play anything from outside America. And it's not even a law. Like all the other countries in the world, they have quota laws, entertainment quota laws, where you are told you are supposed to play 90-something% of local music. And I support those laws, by the way. But in America, they don't need those laws because everybody just feels we have to support our own. Yeah.
So aspiring musicians, existing musicians out there, you've heard it from this master of music. Let's hear the songs about being proud to be a Zimbabwean. let's hear the music of how to promote our country positively. Talk about the good things, not the difficult things and the bad things, but the positive
Every
things.
country has got its own difficult things.
Yes.
Every country has got its own good things. I remember somebody was saying, you're coming from Zimbabwe, you have so much of press there, you don't have free press. And I said, if you have free press, how come Edward Snowden has fled America? How come WikiLeaks founder is in jail?
Good
that's
point.
a story for another
Good points, good points. Okay, so let's move away from the politics, back to music,
Yeah.
So you formed the reggae duo with your friend
Chris, yeah.
in 93. Tell us about that journey and the different bands that you had and how you developed your career.
Yeah, reggae was very huge in Zimbabwe since 1980 when Bob Marley came to Zimbabwe. So after that, it became an unwritten law that even if you're a Sungura band or you're a Chimurenga band, you had to have a reggae section on your program. So reggae was so huge. So if you had a reggae band, it was even a better advantage. So me and my friend Christopher Kamoa is late now. We're both very strong reggae fans. So we formed our own reggae band. It was called Chris and Mono.
Mm-hmm.
But we did a number of auditions and we failed time and again, and we got discouraged and stopped the band. I think my first 3 or 4 bands, we failed auditions so many times. But the good thing is we failed the auditions, but gained the experience and gained the lessons. That's what we used later on.
And I believe you made a mix of Zimbabweans, Zambians, Congolese.
Yeah, that was around 93 and 94. Mm-hmm. I was in 2 bands that the core members of the bands were from DRC.
Okay.
Because in 1993, Rumba was very big in Zimbabwe. So bands were coming from DRC. And what used to happen is some of the bands would leave members in Zimbabwe. I think they would have seen our sisters in Zimbabwe and decided to marry our sisters. I'm sure they didn't know that we have so many beautiful women in Zimbabwe. So every time they came to Zimbabwe, some of them would remain behind, get married to our sisters and form new bands. And I was part of 2 of those bands. And I gained a lot of experience from them because they've got a different approach to music than us. So I was in 2 of those bands. That was 93 and early 1994.
And tell me your education. I believe you finally went to college in 91?
Yeah, no.
2001.
2001, yeah. 2001, I went to do a certificate in music at the Zimbabwe College of Music. Mm-hmm. That was for 2 years. And then in 2019, I went to do a degree with Midland State University. So I've got 2 tertiary qualifications.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I dropped out of school when I was 17.
You dropped out of school?
When I was 17. I didn't finish A-level.
Okay.
But then Harvard Business School offered me a place to go study a 3-year program, and I graduated 2 years ago. So anything is possible.
How come Harvard is so popular?
I think it's the level of the academia, the level of the educationalists, the professors, and of course the networking, the people that are there. It's the best of the best in the world.
Then how did they invite you? Now I'm the interviewer.
So we'll talk about it afterwards. Yeah. But tell me about your guitar skills, because I believe you won the best student at college.
At the Zimbabwe College of Music, yeah. I was given that award when I finished the program.
Right.
They just thought maybe I was the best guitar student.
But it can't just be by coincidence, right? There's something behind this.
Yeah, I really worked hard. That one is true, because I really worked hard. Because I remember there are times when I used to practice 12 hours a day.
12 hours?
12 hours a day.
Non-stop?
Non-stop. I'll just stop to take breaks and eat and come back and study. I read dozens and dozens of books. I watched dozens and dozens of TV programs, researching, speaking to other gurus, getting information. So I really worked hard when it comes to the guitar. So
tell us, shortly thereafter you met Oliver Mtukudzi and joined him. How did that happen? And
I think it was on the 2nd of February 2003, I received a call from the manager, Debbie Metcalf. And she had heard about me. Because what had happened is the guitarist at the time was Pilani Dube, and he was sick and he couldn't travel outside Zimbabwe. So Oliver Mtukudzi had seen me teach guitar at Prince Edward School, and he liked the way I play, but he didn't get my name. And Debbie Metcalf had seen videos of me playing. So they were discussing looking for a guitarist, and everybody was telling them to look for Mono. So Debbie was saying, I know Mono, I've seen his videos. And Oliver Mtukudzi was saying, okay, if we don't find Mono, we'll look for that teacher who teaches guitar at Prince Edward School. And when Debbie called me, they were happy to see that the two people they were looking for
The same people.
was the same person. So that's how I joined the band.
Excellent.
That was 2003, and I got fired 2007.
You actually got fired?
Yeah, so I stayed in the band for 4 years.
And what happened? Why did you leave?
There was a new management, and I'm sure they wanted new stuff. I don't know, because we never told anything. So
Okay.
we had so many theories. So the theory that makes sense is that there was a new manager, they wanted new stuff, and somebody said that they were saying there were too many professionals in the band, so they were taking too much money. So they wanted kids who were
Corruption.
just coming from school, were just excited to get onto the plane and get on stage, because we, the old ones, were demanding too much money.
So I know you're challenged in your Christian faith, but I'm sure you would have read the Bible before. So I'm going to quote a verse and ask you what you think about it. Romans 8:28 says, all things work for the
Together
good, together for the good,
Yeah.
to those who love the Lord, to those who
Yeah.
are called by Him.
Yeah.
So probably
But
back in...
hold on, I still believe in God.
You believe in God?
Yeah, I even call myself God's favorite guitarist.
Okay.
So it's just the
God's chosen guitarist.
Yeah, favorite guitarist.
Favorite.
Yeah, so it's just the denominations, Christianity.
It gets
Muslim.
confusing.
Yeah,
It gets
It
confusing.
gets confusing. Yeah.
So you believe in God. So if I was to say to you, isn't that a reason for your good, what happened? Is that not when you started, is it Monolio, your studios?
Yeah. That one was a very good blessing in disguise, because up to now, maybe I would still be somebody's employee. So it was a very good move. Because even when I joined Oliver Mtukudzi's band, he was the most well-traveled band at that time. So I took advantage of that and started buying my studio equipment, because I knew that nothing lasts forever. So
Right.
I started investing straight away. So when I was fired, I was the most prepared of everybody who was fired at that time, because everything was in place. So the only difference is that I was not getting into planes as much as I used to when I was with Oliver Mtukudzi. But financially, I was not affected.
So how did you find the discipline, instead of spending all your money on women and drinks and fun, investing it into something for the future?
Yeah, I had a lot of lessons from my early days in the music industry. Because by the time I reached, by the time we got to year 2000, all the people that I started within the music industry had died of AIDS. So
Can you
because
imagine?
of that, I knew that promiscuity was dangerous. Because we used to do the things together, and I also got infected with the STIs, sexually transmitted diseases, and everything. But then I got my things together, and I said, you know what? For you to survive in the music industry, you really need to be disciplined. Because what happens in the music industry is the women, they throw themselves at you on stage. So it's not an easy thing for a man to say no to sex.
When it's being thrown at you.
Yeah, it's easy for somebody to say, musicians are promiscuous, but no one is throwing themselves at you. So you can call yourself strong, but when you face the temptation, that's when we can prove. So what happened is, after I noticed my friends dying, I said to myself, I need to really focus. So I told them, you know what, guys? I'm no longer into promiscuity. I'm going to focus on my music and my life. And it worked for me. So by the time I joined Oliver Mtukudzi, it was now a bigger stage. We were playing in front of thousands, and we were flying all over the world. My focus was I was now very disciplined. So that's how I survived.
So you saw your future coming and you started investing in it.
Yeah, that's why I call myself God's favorite, because I believe it's God was guiding me.
Beautiful. Hold that thought. God was guiding Mono. We'll be back shortly.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
So we're back, and Mono was telling us about how God is involved in his life, and God has chosen him as his favorite guitarist. So because God loves your guitar, we want you to give us some of what God enjoys.
Okay.
So play us a tune.
Okay, I'll play some of the tunes that I recorded. Mm-hmm. And I'll start with, by the way, there's one broken string, so I'll be...
You're one less.
Yeah, so I'll be a bit limited.
Take you back to that tin.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one advantage of that background, because sometimes we play with guitars that were not... that didn't have enough strings. So because of that, we can make do with anything.
Improvise.
Yeah, we can improvise. By Japres and Amara Brown. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds familiar. Japres is one of our brand ambassadors.
That's good. Yeah, it was a collaboration between him and Amara. So I produced the song and I played the instruments as well. Amazing. Yeah.
So I'm not a singer. It's one of the things that God never blessed me with is a voice.
Okay.
But one thing that
Have you ever tried?
I've tried, but I think I need a teacher because I just can't get the voice to come out. I know it's somewhere deep inside. My father had a very beautiful voice. But if I was to say to you, I'm a man of the future, and my song is singing a song of hope, like I'm not living today, but I'm living in 2050, because that's the vision of the city that I see that we're building, the country that I hope to aspire to create better lives for everyone. Yeah. What would that sound like?
Okay, it will sound something like...
I'm just a white boy sitting here, dreaming of the future, seeing the billion brick vision coming alive in 2050. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps, Mono. That vibe. I think we got the jingle for West Prop Day.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Thanks
for sharing us those talents. And I see why now God loves you as his guitarist.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you also like it.
I'm getting to like it. I need more. I need more. So talking about God and faith and religion, in your life, how have you seen his hand? How could you attribute to where you've got to today and what you're doing? How do you believe God is part of that?
Instinctively, I think, as Africans, I think it is very difficult to find an African who doesn't believe in God. It's very difficult. I've never seen an African who is an atheist. So we might differ in faiths and religion and doctrines, but in terms of belief in God, we all believe in God. And looking at my life from the time I started up to now, everything, I see God in everything. Because there was a time that I thought that I would never reach 40, because I had seen everybody die around me, especially during those HIV and AIDS times when there were no ARVs. You remember that time from 1995 to year 2000, that period, we lost a lot of musicians. But God kept me for a reason. So that's one evidence that I have.
And your faith system at home, you mentioned your 2 children are Christians, your wife is Christian. How does that balance happen? How do you allow them to find their own way into what they believe?
I'm very tolerant. I never mock anybody's religion. I never mock anybody's doctrine. I just believe in what I believe in, then I leave them to to believe in what they believe. That's why I don't even involve in religious debates and religious arguments, because I just feel it's unnecessary and it's intolerant. Because if you mock someone's religion, it's very personal. So at home, I allow them to do what they want to do. I am the one who drops my wife and family at church. I'm the one who picks them. I even give them offering money to pay.
For the
What I
tithes.
just don't pay is the tithes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, in your view, you're born with certain talents and gifts. And I often say our gift from God is our life. What we do with our lives is our gift to Him.
Yeah.
How do you relate to that and the gifts that you've been given, the talents, using them to multiply, to increase, not only for your own family, but for others?
I believe, concerning that, I believe that even when I'm playing my guitar, I am paying homage to the one who gave me the gift. Because I believe it's just like this, like if you buy your baby a toy and then they throw it away, you don't feel good about it. But if you if you buy your baby a toy and you see them happy with the toy, showing it off to their friends and everything, you feel very happy about it. So I feel as a musician, God gave me a gift to play music. So I believe when I'm expressing my calling, when I play, He's happy. So
And you're happy.
Yeah, and I'm also happy. They say that the people that live according to their calling, they are the happiest. Because once you start expressing your calling, you start living. Because there's a difference between living and existing. Existing is just taking up space, but living is you'll be living according to your purpose. So I believe I'm living according to my purpose.
They say you either eat to live or live to eat.
Yeah.
So in that context, it's amazing you say that, because I really believe that guitar there was created for a purpose.
Yeah, that's true.
It's to play music, to have a sound. And if it doesn't produce sound, it's not fulfilling its purpose.
Yeah, it's not.
But as soon as it starts to produce sound, it fulfills its purpose. And that's the beautiful thing about us. We're God's creation. He created us to fulfill a certain purpose. And when we fulfill that purpose, that's like music to His ears, literally. Because now it's what He created us for.
Remember, I talked about that author who was suffering from cancer and he was given a short time to live. And after he started writing books, he started living in his purpose, his life was extended. And I believe such stories. Because most people, when they retire and start doing nothing, they get older very fast. And then they die because they're not doing anything. They're just existing. They're not living. So by expressing my calling, I feel I'm living and I'm happy because of that.
Well, more life to you, Mono. I know you're now 53.
Yeah, I'm 53 now.
Halfway almost through your life.
Yeah, maybe 1/3 away.
No, I'm 51.
You're 51.
So I feel like I'm not even yet halfway. So I like to
Yeah.
see people in their 50s also believe that maybe we're not even halfway through our lives.
Yeah, I believe
still-
I've used maybe 1/3 of my life. I still have
There you
more
go.
to-
2/3 to go.
Yeah, 2050 I'll still be around.
That's a good one. So you've published 3 books.
Yeah, I've written 3 books.
Tell us about them.
The first one is biographical. It's called Following the Melody. I was revealing all the mistakes that I've made, how I've moved in my music journey up to now, and how those mistakes can be avoided by the next generation. So I feel it's
Powerful.
a very important book. And this year I'm adding more chapters. Because if a book is biographical and you are still alive, you need to keep updating it. So there are many chapters that are needed, that are supposed to be written, like my degree. I graduated 2022. It's not inside there, and other things. So I should be done by the time I get to my birthday in September. So that was my first book. Then the second book is called Poor and Famous. And I was talking about the music industry in Zimbabwe. Because the music industry in Zimbabwe, it's a low-income industry. It doesn't pay much. So I was answering questions as to why it's like that and how that can be avoided. Of course, you might not be very rich, but you must be comfortable with your gift. So those are the things that I was addressing in that book. Then the third book, I wrote it when I turned 50. Because I just thought, now I'm 50, I think I'm older and wiser. I need to write something that's away from music. So I wrote a book called Main Vacuum. It's addressing the boy child. You know how it is these days, everybody's just talking about the girl child. Everybody's empowering the girl child and no one is empowering the boy child. So that book is just meant for the empowering of the boy child. So those are 3 books that I wrote.
Fantastic. And I love that word, empowerment. You know, I met the president 2 weeks ago and I said to him, Your Excellency, do you know that in Zimbabwe today, we have 61% of our population under 25 years of age?
That's a very good thing.
And most of these young people don't have jobs. They don't have a bright, immediate future in front of them. So us, as the generation that me and you are in, and we've got children that are in that category. I believe your children is born in 94 and 98.
94 and 98.
So my daughter's 96, so she's right in the middle of those two. And they're let's say the millennials, the generation Z, right? The Y Z generation. And now we have the alphas being born. So these are the children of the future. And I like to look at the future because I really am building the future of Zimbabwe. Literally, we're putting 1 billion bricks into the ground. Yeah. So if I was to ask you to project yourself into the future with your children, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? How is AI going to influence music? Surely with AI now coming with the 1,000 albums you've created, the transfer of knowledge and of information can happen almost in an instant. And surely that's an opportunity for others to get to know the things that Zimbabweans are doing and hearing in a way that wasn't possible before. How do you see that happening? What is your view?
Remember when you said 60% of our population is young people, I said it's a good thing because there are countries where such demographics now belong to very old people and they are very worried. Some countries in Asia, some countries in Europe, they don't have such age groups, such numbers. So I think it's a good thing, but that is if we equip them. And we equip them in different ways. Like the way I contribute myself is I write books, I do a lot of video essays, explaining music, explaining the history, music history, and even that's one reason I also don't turn away interviews like these ones, because I know that this thing is going to last for the next 200 years. So right now, as we sit here, we are equipping the next generation with information. Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So one final message. We've come to the end of the show. The audience is out there. They're watching you. You mean a lot to a lot of people. What kind of word of encouragement or hope can you give to the young people out there today?
I'll just like to say especially to musicians, talent is not enough. Talent is not enough. Strategy is everything. Because most youngsters who venture into music, when they discover that they are talented, they think it's done. Just the fact that they are talented, they are going to make it. But I just want to say talent is not enough, strategy is everything.
Powerful, powerful. You know, I learned that at Harvard Business School.
Oh.
At the third year, in the final year, almost the final exam, if you could call it a dissertation, we had to come up with a corporate strategy statement.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I came up with the 1 billion bricks to 2050. And when we really learned the importance of strategy, I understood that everything else was not so important. But strategy is the most important thing.
Strategy is the most important.
You hit it on the nail. So thank you for being here, Mono. For one, I've been monolized tonight. And as they say, music works on you.
I say everything that is sound should be monolized.
That's it.
So I'm happy that you've been
So you're going to monolize the world?
Yeah.
I like that. So you've heard it from the man. Thank you for listening to us tonight. Like, follow, share, forward. Thank you. Good night.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.